Am I the asshole for asking a house guest to leave because they kept ignoring my explicit home rules? So I, 28M, had invited Arlo and Georgia over for the weekend, and I made it clear from the start what my expectations were: no smoking, no drinking after 10 p.m., and no loud music. I even went so far as to have a spreadsheet with all the specific details of what was allowed and not allowed in my house. I thought it would be a good idea to lay everything out up front, just to avoid any misunderstandings. Well, Georgia seemed pretty on board at first. She said something like, got it, I'll make sure to follow all the rules," when we discussed it over dinner. But by the time we were watching a movie in my living room, she was making popcorn and having a friend, Colt, over with her without even asking me if that was okay. And then, things just escalated from there. By around 11 p.m., Georgia had turned up the music way too loud, and I asked her to turn it down, which of course she didn't do. When I told her again that it needed to be down by a certain volume, she got defensive and said, "Why are you being so uptight?" At this point, I was already getting frustrated. I had clearly communicated what my expectations were, and yet Georgia just wasn't respecting them. So I asked her if she could just leave for the night, which is basically how our living arrangements work out of respect for each other's space. She said something like, "Whatever," and started gathering her stuff to leave. I have to admit, I was a bit hurt by how dismissive Georgia seemed. I had put in some effort to be clear and respectful, and this is how she reacted. But at the same time, I didn't want to deal with it anymore either. Am I the asshole for asking her to leave?
Am I the asshole for expecting my roommate Danny to discuss and get her agreement before Sawyer's boyfriend Ezra started spending all his money in our house? So I, 33F, and here's what happened. I've lived with Danny for 2 years, and we've always had a good relationship. We split the rent evenly at $1,200 per month, which works out to be about $600 each. Recently, Ezra started coming over more often, and it seemed like he was spending all his money on us. Literally, he would bring home cases of expensive craft beer that we wouldn't touch, and buy me new clothes when I only needed a few things. At first, I thought nothing of it, but as the months went by, the expenses started adding up. Sawyer, Danny's boyfriend, would occasionally ask if we wanted to try his latest purchase, whether it was a $200 bottle of wine or a $1,000 video game. I brought it up with Danny one evening when she came home late from work. "Hey girl, can I talk to you about something?" I said. "Sawyer's boyfriend Ezra is spending way too much money on us. Like, we're talking hundreds of dollars per month." Danny just shrugged and said, "Oh, he's just trying to help," and changed the subject. I asked her if she was comfortable with this, but she just told me that Sawyer wouldn't care and that we should just deal with it. I tried to bring it up again a few days later, but Danny just dismissed my concerns and told me to not be such a nag. I felt frustrated because I'm trying to have a conversation about our shared expenses. It feels like Danny is now so accustomed to having Ezra around that she expects me to just roll with it without any discussion or agreement from me. Am I the asshole for expecting Danny to address this issue?
Am I the asshole for giving a truthful reference that included some of my former coworker Sawyer's shortcomings? So I, 34M, and here's what happened. I had known Sawyer since we worked together at a small startup about 5 years ago. We were friends, but our working relationship was a bit complicated. Sawyer struggled to meet deadlines and often left me with last-minute tasks that I had to pick up. After I left the company, I noticed that Sawyer started applying for jobs in my field. When they approached me for a reference, I agreed, but I also made sure to include some of their shortcomings in our conversation. For example, I mentioned how they often missed deadlines and would rely on me to bail them out. I also warned potential employers about their tendency to be disorganized and lack focus. Sawyer was thrilled with the job they got, and we remained friends for a while. However, things took a turn when Sawyer started bragging about our conversation with their new colleagues. They claimed that I had told them I was very supportive of Sawyer's career, but that I also said they were not as capable as some other candidates. Sawyer also mentioned that I had said they needed to be more organized and focused in order to succeed. I tried to brush it off, thinking that Sawyer would eventually understand where I was coming from. But things escalated when Sawyer's friend Zoe, who also knew me from work, confronted me about my comments. She told me that Sawyer felt like I had ripped them apart with my reference and that they were now questioning our friendship. Sawyer has been acting really defensive ever since, claiming that I was being unfair and that I should have only highlighted their strengths. They even went so far as to say that I must be jealous of their success. Zoe has also chimed in, saying that I'm the one who's being unreasonable and that Sawyer is just trying to protect themselves. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for telling my friend that her parenting choices are affecting our kids' friendship? So I, 20F, and here's what happened. Zara and I have been friends since college, and we've always made it a point to keep in touch with each other, not just because we're friends, but also because we both know how much our kids get along. We'd often meet up for coffee or take the girls to the park together. But recently, things took a turn. Zara started dating this guy named Tanner, and at first, I was happy for her. She seemed really into him, and he's actually pretty nice. But as time went on, I started noticing that Tanner had a lot of influence over Zara's parenting decisions. He would often take the kids out to expensive restaurants for dinner, like $50 a person expensive, and buy them a bunch of toys that cost over $20 each. At first, I thought it was just because he wanted to spoil the kids, but then I realized that he was actually trying to control how they played and what activities they did. One day, we were all at the park together, and Tanner started yelling at Malik, our 7-year-old son, for not following his rules. Malik got really upset and started crying, and Zara just stood there, doing nothing. She didn't even try to calm him down or apologize to him. I was shocked that she wasn't standing up for her own child. After the argument, Zara blew up at me and said that I was being a mean girl and that I was just jealous of her relationship with Tanner. But honestly, I'm not jealous, I'm worried about Malik's well-being. I told her that her parenting choices were affecting our kids' friendship, and that we needed to find a better way to handle situations like this. Am I the asshole?